Hey everybody, Isaiah Colton here with Real Insider Pro Sales and Marketing Secrets podcast, and we're continuing our series talking about the 7 sales and marketing method, the 7 steps in our sales and marketing methodology when it comes to building and scaling your business in a crazy, crazy world right now, right? And so we're actually on my favorite one, number 5, okay? And that's overcoming objections. And just so you know a little bit of the backstory, if this is your first time watching or listening to my podcast, then you're probably wondering, like, what are these 7 steps all about? So back when I first became an entrepreneur in 2014, I was kind of on my own. I was the only one selling my product. If I didn't sell, then we didn't make payroll. I was determined not to go raise money right away from my company, and I needed to figure out a way to be able to be more consistent. Couldn't afford a coach, didn't have a coach. And even though I was really, really good in sales, when you have that kind of pressure on you, it can be crazy, right? And it can be really, really stressful at times. And so I began to hunt and seek out a methodology or a process that I could create more consistency to myself, and then ultimately I could duplicate out through a sales team. And while there's great books on sales, there's great books on sales management, it can be complicated, it can be too fluffy, it can be overwhelming with not really feeling like there's all these moving parts in the sales process. And the reality is that when it comes to real estate, and when it comes to sales and real estate, it's not about doing 1,000 different things. It's about doing a handful of things over and over and over again and doing extremely well. And I actually adopted that from a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. And it was one of the best sales books I've ever read, business books I've ever read. And I've taken that principle and kind of adopted it in real estate. And after I started applying and bringing the 7-step methodology into a system, my business skyrocketed. We grew 1,500%, okay, in 3 years, okay. It ended up being about $5 billion in closings. I ended up scaling that out to, it was a wild, wild ride. Now I've moved on to a little bit of a different venture where now I'm training and coaching the strategies that I use to build my own company. And just so you know, I'm still in the trenches. I still own a real estate brokerage. I have a technology marketing company. I flip properties, I invest in properties. So I got a lot going on. But this is a passion of mine because of what it's done to change my life and how many other people's lives I've seen change because of it. So step number 5 is overcoming objections. So if you haven't seen the other videos, go back on my Facebook feed or go to YouTube, whatever it may be, and you can watch the other videos so you can see the whole series. But the 7 steps are building rapport and qualifying, building value, creating urgency, trial closing, and then step 5 is overcoming objections. Step 6 is making sure you have an awesome follow-up sales and marketing process and system. And then 7 is you're tracking your metrics and you're making sure you do what I do on a daily basis. You have something to feed your brain, right? You're constantly getting better, right? So those are the 7 steps. And I want you to think about that just for a second, is think about if all those steps came together, as much as those steps are common knowledge, if you mastered every single one of them, what would that do to your sales career? What would that do for your team if you're a team leader, right? If you're, if you're an inside sales agent, what would that do for you? Okay, I can tell you what it did for me. It changed everything because I went from not, trying to figure it out to and having inconsistent results to becoming independently wealthy. And I contributed to this as being a huge part of it because now I can duplicate out salespeople that are dynamite, right? I can teach other people how to do the same thing. So let's take a deep dive into 5, okay? Overcoming objections. Okay, overcoming objections is one of the most underutilized trained topic that's out there. There's a lot of people talking about it on the surface, but there's not a good system in place to actually figure it out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually talk about the difference between what a reflex response is, okay, what a soft objection is, and what an objection is. And this is the problem that most salespeople have, is they start handling an objection like an objection, and it's really not. Okay, so think of this in context of a prospecting phone call. Okay, we're going to talk about over the phone right now, so think about it in from that point of view. And so a reflex response generally speaking, something that happens before you've asked for anything. So meaning you pick up the phone, you've said hello, you get into your introduction, and then they say something crazy, right? That kind of blows your mind a little bit. Like, I'm not interested, right? Or, yeah, or they do the brush off, like, call me back, right? Or they'll ask you a question like, are you a realtor, right? So they're doing these different things, and the reality is that they're brush offs, they're blow offs, they're a knee jerk or what's called a reflex response. So you got to make sure that you don't handle that the wrong way. So let's take a dive into how to handle a reflex response. The best way to handle a reflex response, okay, is to do what I call the push and pull method. So what's the push and pull method? So if they give you a reflex response, okay, the thing is you don't want to keep pushing and driving, okay, through that response, because then they're going to pull away. All right. So sometimes the more you push, the more they'll pull away. So the art of this is it's a cycle that I came up with, and it's really simple. You acknowledge what they're saying. You have strong, what I call verbal advantage. Okay. And then you get back in your script and either ask a question or you keep going on with the dialogue. Okay. So for example, somebody said, oh yeah, look, I'm getting these calls all the time. You know, I'm not interested right now. I just want to sell it on my own, or I just want to, you know, let's say it's an expired. I just want to let it cool off. I'm not interested. I'm getting these calls all the time. So I got to relieve the pressure and I got to acknowledge what they said. So that's step one. Hey, John, I get it. Like, you know, I get it. You're probably getting blown up right now with different phone calls. I totally respect and understand where you're coming from. Look, before I let you go, let me ask you a question. It looks like a beautiful house. Like, what made you want to even entertain selling it on the first place when you put it up? Now, what did I do? I'm back in. So I acknowledged, I asked a question, right? Or I gave some verbal advantage. I complimented them on their property. And then I went back into the question because I'm early on in the script. So I can't really, it's a really good place to ask a question, right? So, you know, another example would be is if it could turn into kind of a soft objection, right? So you could kind of, you might get it again, like it might come out a little bit a different way. So you kind of keep going, you ask them a question, you're like, well, I wanted to sell because of this, this, and this. All right. And so you're going to get ammunition, right? The more they give you, the more ammunition that you have now to actually go out to continue the conversation. And what you want to do is be processing and thinking about their pain and motivation with the information they're giving to you. Because then the next part of it is once you've overcome that, they start giving you some information, you've had some dialogue, you want to keep the conversation moving. So you might ask another question that's more of a tie down. We talked about tie downs yesterday, right? So you say, hey, John, hey, oh, great, awesome. So if I'm hearing you right, if you got the right offer, okay, you're trying to get down to Florida and you want to do it by June, if I'm hearing you right. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, here's the thing, John, let me ask you this. If I was able to show you a way to where you didn't have as much headache, you could potentially get it sold for more, right? And quicker, that's at least worth entertaining a conversation with me, right? So it's hard to say no to that because it's a theoretical. And you want to keep it theoretical because what will happen is it'll turn into a real objection and not just a knee jerk if you don't keep it theoretical, right? What do I mean by theoretical? Well, theoretically, in theory, I'd like to list his house. In theory, he would be best off with me, right? In theory, in his mind, in theory, he thinks that he might be better off for sale by owner or letting it cool off or listing with the previous, whatever it is. These are all theories, right? These are beliefs, right? And at the end of the day, it's my job and my responsibility over the phone is not to try to tell them they're wrong or that their theory is wrong, but to try to poke a little bit of a hole or create some curiosity or make them think about maybe what they're believing and thinking not to be true, right? And at the same time, I'm not going to go too far over and act like I know it to be true 100%, because at the end of the day, I don't. Until I see that property, I can say it's beautiful, I can say it's priced right, I can say all these different things. But if I'm a true professional and I have respect for myself and my time, I have a profile, an ideal client that I'm going to work with. And if they're not within a 70 to 80 percentile of that ideal client, then I might not want to work with them. right? So that's the art and science, folks, of overcoming an objection, is understanding the cycle and where you're at and making sure that it's not a knee-jerk and an objection, right? And so I actually taught this method to a gentleman over the phone. Actually, I had a couple conversations. He's a powerhouse agent out of Charlotte, the Charlotte marketplace. And what happened with him is he was really good in person, but he was having a tough time with conversations over the phone. So he was calling to do his confirmation. He was getting people to back out. And so he used this methodology, the same method, to help him overcome these knee jerks when they went to back out of the appointment. So what he would say is, Sue, hey, look, I can appreciate it. I know that you've got a lot of calls, and maybe you don't want to take the meeting at this time. Let me ask you a question, right? And then you're back into your cycle, right? So that cycle it works phenomenal. In fact, I would dare to say that if you start using that cycle within your objection process, okay, your business will double. Your conversion will double. And that's a bold statement, but I believe in you, and I believe that if you're watching this video, you're somebody who's looking to gain knowledge, and somebody that wants to be great if you're not great already. And if you apply this, I believe you can double your results, okay? Now here's the deal. An objection is a little bit different, okay? So if you've asked for the appointment a couple different times, then there's a different strategy on actually handling the objection. I'm going to get into that in tomorrow's podcast, okay? I'm going to take another drill down into what it means to overcoming objection, and we're going to talk about the difference between verbal advantage and asking effective questions. I got a big announcement before we end. I'm actually speaking at the up and coming Club Wealth event. I'm so excited about it. It's the Listing Agent Boot Camp. Michael Helkson and I have gotten to know each other well. We have some projects we're working on together. I love his platform. I love his coaching model. And I'm going to be sharing a topic called how to generate 100 inbound phone calls in one day. Every single person that comes to my event, and I'm going to provide a link you can click on to register for the Club Wealth event. If you come to my specific training, you're going to get 24 home seller secret videos you can use for your follow-up marketing, and your video marketing and your social media. And you're also going to get 24 proven postcards. I've sent over 1 million postcards. You're going to get 24 proven postcards designed to convert on a geo farming campaign. Okay. I'm going to give you those just for showing up. And by the way, you're also going to get 1,000 geo targeted leads with cell phones, emails, and addresses to go out and attack it. It's my way of giving back because of what's going on with COVID. And I know you're going to love my training. I got some awesome topics and even a bigger giveaway. I'm going to keep a secret, but you got to come to my event. Go ahead and register for the Club Wealth event. You're not going to regret it. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I look forward to interacting with you in the future. Have a good day.